Be me, 29, graphic designer working at mid-sized agency, dating girlfriend Emily for 2 years. Emily was 27, senior project manager at tech consultancy, certified PMP, Scrum Master, obsessed with optimization. Always admired her drive and organization. I was the creative, chaotic type, she was the structure. Seemed like perfect balance of chaos and order. Decided to move in together into loft apartment downtown, both excited about merging lives and saving on rent. During dating phase, Emily loved planning dates. Would send calendar invites for dinner with location links. Thought it was cute and efficient. Never missed a reservation, never late for a movie. Signed lease, moved boxes, set up furniture. First week was bliss, unpacking and drinking wine. Then Emily said we needed to have a kickoff meeting for our cohabitation. Sat down at dining table, she pulled out a laptop, opened a presentation deck titled Project Cohab V.1. 0. Explain that to avoid the entropy of domestic life. We needed to apply agile methodology to our relationship. Said traditional relationships fail because they rely on waterfall planning. Rigid, inflexible, prone to catastrophic failure at the end. Agile would allow us to iterate, adapt, and optimize velocity. Sounded smart. I nodded along thinking it meant a chore wheel. She introduced the Kanban board. Physical whiteboard on the fridge divided into columns. Backlog, to do, in progress, blocked, done. Every household task was now a ticket. Buying milk wasn't just buying milk. It was a user story. As a resident, I want milk so I can eat cereal. Assigned story points based on complexity and effort. Washing dishes was 3 points. Deep cleaning bathroom was 8 points. Expectation was we would each clear 50 points per weekly sprint. I laughed, thinking it was a bit intense but quirky. Agreed to try the system to keep the house tidy. First month was weirdly effective but exhausting. Had to physically move magnets across the fridge board. If I took out trash but forgot to move magnet to done, Emily would flag it as a process failure in our daily stand-up. Yes, daily stand-up meetings. 7 a.m. every morning, standing in kitchen with coffee. 3 questions. What did I do yesterday? What am I doing today? Do I have any blockers? I'm barely awake, muttering about doing laundry. She's taking notes in a cloud-based tracking software. Second month, Emily introduced sprint retrospectives. Sunday evenings, strictly 60 minutes, reviewing the previous week's performance metrics. She projected a burn-down chart on the living room TV. Graph showed our task completion rate versus ideal velocity. If I fell below the curve, she expressed concern about my bandwidth, asked if I was struggling with scope creep in my personal life. Maybe I was playing too much video games, non-value-added time. I said I just wanted to relax on weekends. She said relaxation is fine but needs to be scheduled downtime. Unplanned inactivity caused bottlenecks in household throughput. Started feeling like I was living with my boss. Third month, the optimization spread to our social life. Emily introduced stakeholder management for friends and family, created a CRM, customer relationship management database. Logged every interaction with my parents and her parents. Assigned relationship health scores to each friend. If I hadn't called my mom in 2 weeks, system flagged a high priority ticket. Alert popped up on my phone. Action required, maintenance call with mother. One Friday I suggested we go to a new bar spontaneously. Emily looked panicked, checked the shared calendar, said we couldn't because it wasn't in the current sprint scope. Explained that unplanned work destroys velocity. If we went out now, we'd have to push grocery procurement to next sprint, which would cascade into meal prep failure, which would impact work-lunch availability for the following week. I argued that life shouldn't be a supply chain algorithm. She said my resistance to planning was legacy thinking, that I was operating on an outdated OS of romantic spontaneity, which historically leads to dissatisfaction and drift. We spent 2 hours debating the ROI, return on investment of spontaneity. Ended up staying home and watching Netflix but had to log it as team building. Fourth month, things got weird with the finances. We split rent 50-50s, but she wanted to optimize capital allocation. Analyzed our spending data from the last quarter, presented a report on fiscal inefficiencies. Pointed out I spent $150 a month on unnecessary beverages, coffee/beer. She proposed a zero-based budgeting approach. Every dollar had to be justified anew every month. No automatic subscriptions, no habitual spending. I had to submit a business case if I wanted to buy a new video game. Had to outline the utility, hours of entertainment versus cost. If the cost per hour was too high, purchase request denied. I earned good money, felt humiliated, asking permission to buy Elden Ring. She said it wasn't about permission, it was about strategic alignment. Ensuring our resources were directed towards our North Star goals, like buying a house or early retirement. Felt like I was an employee in a company I didn't apply for. 5th month, the methodology hit the bedroom. Emily felt our intimacy was inconsistent and lacking quality assurance. Proposed we treat sex as a deliverable with defined acceptance criteria. Drafted a service level agreement (SLA) for our sex life. Minimum frequency 2.5 times per week. Defined core competencies we needed to hit. Foreplay was pre-implementation phase and had minimum time requirements. During the act, if I tried something new, she'd pause and ask if this was a feature request or a bug. If it was a new feature, we had to discuss it in the next retrospective to see if we wanted to integrate it into the standard operating procedure. Completely killed the mood. Felt like I was performing a stress test on a server. I told her this was making me feel robotic. She said data shows that scheduled intimacy leads to higher long-term satisfaction. That relying on mood is a chaotic variable we can't control. Systems provide stability where emotions provide variance. Started dreading the scheduled downtime for intimacy. 6th month, I started showing signs of burnout. Was staying late at work just to avoid the daily stand-up at home. Emily noticed my performance metrics were slipping. Household story points completed dropped to 35%. Relationship health score with friends was red. She called a quarterly business review, QBR for our relationship. Sat me down with a 40-slide deck. SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Identified my attitude as the biggest threat to our synergy. She put me on a performance improvement plan, PIP, literally a PIP for being a boyfriend. Had specific KPIs, key performance indicators, I had to hit in 30 days. Initiate 4 dates. Complete 100% of assigned household tickets. Maintain a positive Net Promoter Score, NPS, with her parents. If I failed to meet KPIs, we would have to reevaluate the partnership. I looked at her dead in the eyes, asked if she realized she was treating me like a junior dev who missed a deadline. She said love is work, and work requires management. That she was trying to upskill me into a better partner. I suggested we see a therapist. She agreed, but insisted on finding a results-oriented coach. Someone who focused on actionable insights, not just feelings. Found the therapist who specialized in executive function in relationships. 7th month, first therapy session. Emily brought a binder, showed the therapist our burn-down charts, our SLAs, the PIP. Therapist looked terrified. Asked Emily, is this a relationship or a merger? Emily explained that emotional labor is inefficient if not tracked. That she was carrying the cognitive load of the project management. Therapist asked me how I felt. I said I felt like I was constantly under audit, that I missed just hanging out without a generic agenda. Emily interrupted, saying my desire to hang out was code for laziness. That I wanted to avoid accountability for shared outcomes. Therapist asked Emily what would happen if we missed a sprint goal. Emily said it creates technical debt in the relationship. Resentment builds up like bad code, eventually crashing the system. Therapist suggested that maybe the tracking was the bug, not the feature. That hypervigilance creates anxiety, not efficiency. Emily looked like she encountered a fatal system error. Couldn't compute that her optimization was the problem. 8th month, therapy continued. Therapist challenged Emily to a no metrics week. We had to live for 7 days without the Kanban board, without the app. No verbalizing story points. Emily started twitching on Tuesday. By Thursday, she was pacing the kitchen. Said she felt blind without the data. How did she know if the floor was clean enough without the definition of done? I told her, just look at the floor. Is it dirty? She realized she didn't trust her own senses, only the system. Breakthrough moment. She admitted she used Agile to control the chaos of intimacy. Her parents had a chaotic, screaming, unpredictable marriage. She vowed to engineer the uncertainty out of love, to build a failure-proof framework. Therapist explained you can't optimize a human connection. People aren't code. There is no version control for feelings. Ninth month, began dismantling the bureaucracy, took the Kanban board off the fridge, replaced it with a magnet that said, buy milk, deleted the CRM database of our friends. Emily struggled with phantom limb syndrome for the systems, would catch herself asking for a status update on my day, corrected herself to just asking, how was your day? We agreed to a hybrid model, keep a shared calendar for big events, weddings, vacations, but everything else was ad hoc. I could buy video games without a business case. She could relax on a Saturday without feeling unproductive. Sexual SLA was burned. Spontaneous slowly returned. It was messy. Sometimes we forgot to buy toilet paper. But the house felt like a home, not a co-working space. 10th month, relationship felt human again. Emily admitted she was less exhausted. Maintaining the surveillance state of the relationship was a full-time job. She had been project managing her own happiness into the ground. We went on a weekend trip without an itinerary, just drove to the coast. She had a mild panic attack when we didn't have a dinner reservation. We found a taco truck and sat on a bench. She said it was the best tacos she ever had. Realized that value isn't always something you can plan in a spreadsheet. Year mark. Reflected on the Agile hell era, we joked about the PIP. I framed the service level agreement as a joke poster in the bathroom. Emily learned that efficiency is for work, messiness is for love. Therapist said we successfully pivoted the startup of us from a rigid corporation to a flexible partnership. 2 years later. Emily still loves a good list. But she doesn't assign points to them. She channeled her optimization energy into her actual job. Got promoted to director because she stopped expending energy managing me. I learned to be a bit more organized without a gun to my head. Found a middle ground. I do the dishes because I see they are dirty, not because of the ticket. She lets me play Elden Ring without calculating ROI. 3 years later, got engaged. Planned the wedding. Emily's eyes lit up. A wedding is a project. It has a deadline, a budget, stakeholders. I told her, you can agile the hell out of the wedding planning, but the marriage itself stays waterfall. We go with the flow. She agreed. She created the most magnificent Gantt chart for the wedding. Suppliers managed within an inch of their lives. Wedding was executed with military precision, but the reception was chaos and fun. 4 years later, married, bought a house. Renovations required some project management. We used Trello, but kept it chill. No daily stand-ups, just coffee together. Emily wrote an article on LinkedIn. Why I fired myself as my husband's project manager. Went viral in the project management community. Thousands of likes from burnt-out PMs realizing they were doing the same thing. Comments. I treat my kids like direct reports. Help. My wife put me on a PIP last week. Is this toxic? Emily started coaching others on de-agiling their personal lives. 5 years later. First kid on the way. Emily creates a nursery plan. I see her hovering over a spreadsheet titled Infant Sleep Optimization. I gently close the laptop, say, the baby doesn't know what a sprint is. The baby is pure chaos. We have to embrace the entropy. She takes a deep breath. Agrees to delete the diaper change velocity tracker template. 6 years later, baby is here. Complete chaos. Sleep is non-existent. House is a mess. Old Emily would have had a breakdown over the process failure. New Emily laughs when the baby pukes on the clean rug, says that's a blocker, and we clean it up together. We rely on communication, not documentation. Trust that the other person is doing their best. No need for audits. 7 years later, reflecting on the journey, from the daily stand-up nightmare to a real partnership. Realize that tools meant for corporate efficiency are poison for intimacy. Corporations are designed to extract value and minimize risk. Relationships are about giving value and sharing risk. Totally different operating systems. I'm grateful we didn't fail fast and break up. We iterated. We refactored the codebase of our love, cleared the technical debt, now running on a stable build. 8 years later, Emily speaks at Agile conferences. Keynote topic, The Limits of Optimization. Tells the story of the relationship PIP. Crowd laughs, but nervously. Because half of them have a Kanban board for their dog walking schedule. She tells them, you are not a stakeholder in your partner's life. You are a participant. Stop trying to manage the people you love. 9 years later, second kid. We are outnumbered. Life is a blur of sports practices and school runs. We have a shared calendar on the fridge. But it's messy, written in marker, crossed out. It's functional, not performative. I ask Emily if we need a retrospective on the summer vacation. She throws a pillow at me, says the retrospective is, we had fun, we are tired, let's sleep. Perfect analysis. 10 years later, renewed vows. In the vows, I promised to never be a blocker. She promised to never assign me a ticket. Our friends from the CRM era are still around. They joke about their health scores from back in the day. One friend says, I was a yellow status for months, I was sweating. We laugh about how insane it was, but acknowledge it came from a place of fear. Fear that if we didn't control everything, it would fall apart. Learned that holding on tight suffocates the flame. Letting go lets it breathe. 11 years later, current reflection, living with a recovering optimizer. She still organizes the spice rack alphabetically, but she doesn't audit my usage of cumin. We found the balance between structure and soul. The spreadsheet years were a necessary crucible, burned away the illusion of control, left us with the reality of connection. The lesson is simple. Don't bring your work home, especially if your work is a rigid management methodology. Love is not a project to be managed. It's an experience to be lived. No KPIs, no deliverables, no stand-ups, just standing together. That's the final update. Project status, green. Ticket closed, permanently.